Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what if the very foods I've been eating for years are quietly stealing my energy, my clarity, and even my years of life? At 62, I've learned this the hard way. And today, I want to share with you 3 foods I never touch anymore. Not because of some passing trend, but because I've seen what they do, inside and out. The first one might be on your table every single day. It's refined sugar, not just the sugar you sprinkle in your coffee, but the hidden sugar in your so-called healthy cereals, dressings, and sauces. This isn't just about gaining a few pounds. Sugar drives insulin resistance, inflammation, and it clogs up your ability to burn fat as fuel. I've seen men and women in their 50s and 60s lose their mental sharpness and energy. And when we trace it back, sugar is often the silent partner. The second food is highly processed vegetable oils, soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil. They promise to be heart healthy, yet they are some of the most inflammatory substances we consume. These oils are unstable, easily oxidized, and when they break down, they damage the very cells they were meant to fuel. Imagine putting rancid oil into a fine-tuned engine. It doesn't run smoothly, does it? The same thing happens in your arteries, your brain, your skin. And the third one? Processed grains. White bread, white pasta, pastries. When you eat these, you're not just filling your stomach, you're spiking your blood sugar, creating a cycle of crashes and cravings that wear you down over time. They strip your body of minerals, they slow your metabolism, and they make it much harder to maintain lean muscle as you age. Now, you might wonder, is it really that simple? Just cut these out? The answer is yes and no. Yes, because removing them alone can trigger dramatic changes. More stable energy, clearer thinking, less stiffness in your joints. No, because the hardest part isn't the removal, it's the mindset. We've been conditioned for decades to think these foods are normal, even essential. But I've found that when you begin to see food not as entertainment, but as information for your body, the shift becomes almost effortless. I've read books that talk about longevity, like the Blue Zones, and one common thread is this: the longest living people don't live on a diet of convenience. They eat intentionally, they choose what fuels them, and they don't gamble their later years for a moment of taste. So, at 62, I ask myself each day, will this food give me life or take it away? That simple question shapes my choices far more than any diet plan ever could. And when you stop feeding your body with sugar, processed oils, and refined grains, you start to notice something powerful. Your body thanks you, not just today, but every single day forward. Have you ever paused and really thought about how certain foods, the ones we grew up eating without question, might be slowly taking away the very thing we want most as we age? Our energy, our strength, our sharpness of mind. It's easy to overlook because the damage isn't always immediate. One day you feel fine, the next you start noticing your joints ache more, your memory slips, your waistline expands, even when you're not eating more than usual. We often blame age, stress, or lack of exercise, but rarely do we turn a critical eye to the foods we eat every single day. As the years pass, the impact of food becomes louder, more visible. When you're young, your body is resilient. It can bounce back, repair itself, and handle a bit of abuse. But after 50, and especially into your 60s, the margin for error shrinks. Foods that once felt harmless, like the sweet snack you had in the afternoon or the quick meal made from convenience ingredients, now begin to silently chip away at your health. They create an undercurrent of inflammation, strain your organs, and set the stage for diseases that seem to appear out of nowhere. What if the very foods you considered staples, those items you've trusted for decades, are behind your low energy, your rising blood pressure, your restless sleep? It's a shocking realization, but it's also empowering, because it means that change is within reach. You don't need a miracle supplement or a complicated plan. You simply need to recognize that certain foods are not neutral. They either build your health or slowly break it down. The truth is, by the time most people start asking why their health is declining, it's not because their body suddenly failed them. It's because the choices they made quietly stacked up over years. Understanding this is the first step toward reclaiming vitality. Food is not just something to fill hunger. It's information. It's instruction for your cells. Every bite is either instructing your body to heal or to harm. And when you start looking at food through that lens, you begin to see why some people age faster, why some feel constantly tired, and why others, even in their 60s, thrive with energy and clarity. Think about the pace at which time seems to move after 60. It's not just about the years, it's about how your body responds to them. Some people remain active, sharp, and vibrant well into their 70s and 80s, while others start feeling older much sooner. Why is that? One of the biggest, yet often overlooked reasons lies in the foods that become part of our daily habits. There are certain foods that don't just fail to nourish you, they actively speed up the process of aging, both inside and out. These foods trigger a cascade of effects that might feel invisible at first. Constant low-grade inflammation, sluggishness, subtle weight gain that becomes stubborn, and a creeping sense of fatigue. Over time, they wear down your metabolism, stress your heart, dull your mind, and even make your skin look older than it should. They force your body into a state where it's always fighting to keep blood sugar stable, fighting to repair damage, fighting to recover after every meal. What makes these foods so destructive is that they seem so ordinary. They're often packaged as everyday choices or even healthier options, and they come dressed up in labels that make them look innocent. But on the inside, they promote oxidative stress, tiny chemical reactions that damage your cells like rust on metal. They cause spikes in insulin that lead to insulin resistance, making it harder to burn fat and easier to store it in the most dangerous places, around your organs, in your liver, and along your arteries. The worst part is, this acceleration of aging doesn't always shout, it whispers. It's the afternoon crash you blame on a bad night's sleep, the creeping blood pressure you call just part of getting older, or the memory lapses you chalk up to stress. But if you peel back the layers, you'll often find that the very foods you've allowed into your routine have been quietly rewriting the future of your health. Inflammation is like a slow-burning fire inside the body. Silent at first, but over time, it consumes your health, your energy, and your resilience. The foods that accelerate aging don't just sit in your stomach and disappear. They create a chain reaction that affects nearly every system you rely on. When you eat them, they spike your blood sugar, trigger a rush of insulin, and then leave your cells stressed and overwhelmed. That stress shows up as inflammation. Swelling you can't always see, but one you can certainly feel. Aching joints, stiffness in the morning, bloating after meals, or a constant heaviness that lingers throughout the day. This same silent inflammation is one of the key drivers of heart problems as we age. It irritates the lining of your blood vessels, makes your arteries less flexible, and over time sets the stage for blockages and plaque. You might think your cholesterol alone is to blame, but often it's the combination of these harmful foods and the inflammatory response they provoke that does the real damage. Your heart starts working harder to push blood through vessels that aren't as open as they once were, and the result is fatigue. Fatigue that isn't fixed by more sleep or an extra cup of coffee. And that fatigue becomes a constant companion. It's the feeling of dragging yourself through the day instead of moving with purpose. Your body is spending its energy putting out fires, repairing damage, managing sugar spikes, and trying to maintain balance. The foods you choose can either fan those flames or help calm them down. The wrong foods create a storm inside your body, tiny, constant battles that, over months and years, leave you feeling older than you are. Eliminating these foods isn't about punishment or strict rules. It's about giving your body a chance to function the way it was designed to. When you remove them, you're not just cutting calories, you're removing the triggers that keep your system on edge. Think of it like clearing debris from a blocked river. The moment you take away the obstruction, flow returns. Blood moves more freely, your digestion improves, and your energy starts to feel steady again. One practical reason to eliminate these foods is to stabilize your blood sugar. Those constant ups and downs don't just affect your weight, they affect your mood, your focus, and even your sleep. Without the sugar spikes from refined carbs, or the hidden sugars in sauces and drinks, your body doesn't need to fight so hard to keep things balanced. You stop feeling those sharp crashes mid-morning or late afternoon because your energy is no longer on a roller coaster. Another reason is that by cutting out processed oils and refined grains, you make space for real nutrients to work. Your cells start getting the right fats, the ones that repair, protect, and energize. Your muscles start to recover better, your joints feel less stiff, and even your skin shows the difference because it's no longer battling constant oxidative damage. And perhaps the most practical reason of all, it simplifies your health journey. When you remove the foods that cause the most harm, you stop chasing symptoms with pills or temporary fixes. Your body naturally does what it's meant to do: heal, regulate, and thrive. It's not about a complicated diet, it's about subtraction. Taking away what hurts you often has more impact than adding new things. Brain fog is one of those symptoms people often dismiss as just getting older. But in reality, it's a signal, a sign that your brain is struggling to function at its best. The foods that harm your body don't stop at your waistline or your heart. They affect your mind too. When you eat sugar, refined grains, or processed oils, they disrupt the balance of your blood sugar and trigger inflammation that can cross into the brain. Over time, this constant disruption starts to cloud your thinking. You may find it harder to focus, names slip away more easily, or simple decisions feel heavier than they should. The brain is an energy-hungry organ. It runs primarily on stable fuel, and it thrives on healthy fats and steady blood sugar. When you flood it with foods that cause spikes and crashes, your brain gets short bursts of fuel followed by long stretches of deprivation. That's when the fog sets in. The moments when you walk into a room and forget why you came, or when reading a page feels like a chore because your mind keeps drifting. Inflammation also plays a role here. It doesn't just create stiffness in your joints, it creates a kind of static in the brain. Neural pathways slow down, communication between brain cells weakens, and your mental clarity starts to dim. This is why some people notice that after removing those harmful foods, they don't just feel lighter in their body, they feel sharper in their mind. They recall things more quickly, their creativity flows, and their conversations feel more present and connected. Most people eat for the moment, the taste, the craving, the comfort it brings right now. But as the years pass, this short-term way of thinking comes at a cost. Each quick indulgence, each convenient choice adds up, quietly shaping how you'll feel in the next decade. Shifting your mindset means stepping back and asking a deeper question. Is this food building my future or borrowing from it? When you start eating for long-term vitality, everything changes. The decision isn't about restriction, it's about investment. You're no longer chasing the instant rush that sugar gives you, or the temporary satisfaction of processed snacks. Instead, you're choosing foods that fuel your body's repair systems, protect your heart, feed your brain, and keep your energy steady for the entire day, not just the next hour. This mindset shift isn't always easy at first because we live in a culture built on fast, easy, and now. But when you realize that every meal is either a step toward health or a step away from it, you begin to see food as a tool, not a trap. The pleasure of eating shifts from the first bite to the way you feel weeks, months, even years later. Your body rewards you with clearer thinking, stronger immunity, less pain, and more life in your years. It's not about perfection, it's about direction. The more often you make choices that support your future, the less you crave the ones that only satisfy the moment. And that's the real motivation. Knowing that at 60, 70, or beyond, you can still feel strong, think clearly, and live fully because you fed your body with respect rather than convenience.